We'll examine the sports world shift towards Trump and traditionalism. Mar-a-Lago is quickly becoming the epicenter of American political scene, and cryptocurrency investors hedge their bets on SEC Chair Gary Gensler's resignation. We have those stories and so much more. Blaze News Tonight starts right now. Welcome to the chaos. I'm Jill Savage. Today is Monday, November 18th. We keep learning about who will lead in the future Trump administration, and it has places like 60 Minutes worried. Listen.
This past week, Republicans won the House majority, and President-elect Trump made nominations to his cabinet. Some nominees appear to have no compelling qualifications other than loyalty to Trump. The nominees are Senator Marco Rubio for Secretary of State, Pete Hegseth to lead the 3 million people of the Department of Defense. He's a combat veteran, most recently a morning show host on Fox News with no government experience. Former Congressman Matt Gaetz for Attorney General, in charge of law enforcement. Gaetz has been investigated by Republicans for alleged drug use and sex with a minor. Gaetz denies those allegations. Former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard for Director of National Intelligence. She sought a pardon for Edward Snowden, who leaked U.S. secrets and now lives in Russia. And Robert Kennedy Jr. for Secretary of Health and Human Services, a skeptic of vaccinations. It's up to the new Republican majority in the Senate to decide whether these nominees are equipped to represent the American people.
But why stop there? Because Trump announced Brendan Carr, who will become the chair of the Federal Communications Commission. Carr posted on X, quote, "We must dismantle the censorship cartel and restore free speech rights for everyday Americans." So here to break it down with us is Matthew Peterson. He's our editor-in-chief, and Rebeka Zeljko. She's the politics reporter for Blaze Media. So, Rebeka, Carr announced that the FCC, they're going to put an end to all of the DEI policies that we've seen out there. So what do you think an FCC will look like under Carr's leadership?
I think an FCC under Carr's leadership is going to be very promising. Along with President Trump's many other cabinet picks and federal nominations, Carr is going to be a disruptor, which is exactly what the MAGA base is after. Carr, notably, like you mentioned, is really against this whole DEI idea. He said that it's, for some reason, become one of the priorities of the FCC, which he opposes. Notably, he's also been staunchly in favor of protecting free speech and opposing big tech's collusion with advertising companies that have been able to leverage money against platforms like ours, or maybe other platforms that they view as dissenting or maybe the wrong opinion. And so I think that it's very promising that Trump has been making all these other picks, and Carr is just the latest installment.
Rebeka, first, thank you so much for the work you're doing for us there in Washington. It's a dirty job, but someone has to do it. And you're manning the post by yourself without Chris. So we appreciate that. I have a general question though, because I'm very curious what your sense is of what both sides are thinking right now, just as you roam about the scene and talk to friends in our fair imperial city. I mean, what are the vibes and feelings on both sides right now?
Well, this has very much been a year for vibes when it comes to politics. I think that Dems in disarray has been a recurring theme, especially with these recent nominations. You just played that clip from 60 Minutes. They're clearly sort of losing their minds. And in terms of on the right-leaning side of things, the vibes are great. I think going into the election, there was a lot of cautious optimism just because we lived through the 2020 election. We lived through the last 4 years. I think everybody was hesitant to kind of take a win. But I think that ever since the election, things have really turned for the best, at least for Republicans and conservatives, not just in D.C., but across America.
Do you, I mean, on the left, when you get a sense of where Democratic staffers are at, for instance, I mean, has the shock worn off? Is it sort of like now we have to go to work, now the resistance starts, or is it still sort of disarray? Oh my gosh, I cannot believe this.
I think there's a little bit of both. I think notably in Harris's speech following the election, she said that, we have to get back to work, that the fight doesn't end here, all these things. But I mean, anecdotally, a lot of my friends who were maybe on the left or staffers that I've befriended that are maybe politically on the other side of things, I think there's still a lot of that residual panic that they're kind of working through. Of course, they have taken some major losses, not just in the executive, but also in the Senate and in the House. Now they have all fallen in favor of the GOP. And so I think there's an acknowledgement that there's a lot of work that they need to do, but it's definitely there's a sense that this is going to be an uphill battle for them.
Well, you're there in D.C., but Mar-a-Lago is now really the center of the political universe. I mean, he has so many different meetings that are going on there every day. And there are so many different Florida politicians that he's chosen for his administration. So when we look at Mar-a-Lago, right, like, is it significant now that this is becoming like essentially a winter White House?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the fact that you have seen so many appearances, not just from his political allies like Elon Musk or Vivek Ramaswamy, but also from world leaders like most recently Javier Milei from Argentina, I think that it is really a testament to the fact that Washington, D.C. is, bottom line, losing political and cultural significance. And I think that plays to Trump's favor. A lot of people criticize Trump and his most recent nominations for the fact that they don't necessarily have political experience or experience in government. That, of course, is their selling point, not just for Trump, but for a lot of his allies. I think a lot of people are really sick and tired of the status quo that takes place in D.C., this establishment, this idea of draining the swamp has become increasingly popular over the last decade. And I think that the latest example of that is the fact that Mar-a-Lago is becoming increasingly influential, not just culturally, but especially politically.
Yeah, you could just, I mean, if this was reversed, right, as we like to say, you'd have every, major channel talking about the magic of Mar-a-Lago, the excitement, the joy, the incredible partying going on and all the interesting people there. But as it is, that's not the case. But to demonstrate the power, right, of this place, there's another pair of people who made a trek recently down to Mar-a-Lago, an unexpected pair, and that would be our friends Mika and Joe. Morning, Joe. All of a sudden, right, from Hitler to, hi, how's it going? We should reestablish, reopen lines of communication for the first time in 7 years, and they were going to, chat with the Donald. What do you make of that? Is that a hopeful sign of communication across party lines, or what?
I mean, a few things there. First things first, I personally wouldn't have a meeting with Hitler. So that just kind of goes to show there, the dishonesty that we all knew was there, but it's kind of reinforcing this idea that they're just lying through their teeth for the last, 8 years or so. I think that it also, I will say objectively, even though I disagree with a lot of the criticisms that have come from establishment media across the board, but especially commentators like Joe and Micah, I think that it is objectively the right decision to reinforce communications reopen communications with the most politically relevant person on the planet. I mean, that's your job as a reporter, as a commentator. It's crucial to have these lines of communication. And so I will say that I sort of doubt the how honest they are being with this gesture, because of course they've been extremely critical of the former president, and coincidentally, although I wouldn't necessarily say it's a coincidence, their ratings have really plummeted since election day.
Yes,
I believe it was the New York Times that reported that they have dipped about double digits since in just 2 weeks. And so I mean, they're sort of at a crossroads where they're deciding between whether or not they want to sink or swim, and so they're sort of doing the painful but necessary thing for MSNBC to survive.
Yeah, Rebecca, we're all counting down to January when, the power, the vibes, the parties, they all move back to your neck of the woods in Washington, D.C. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks again, guys.
We'll break down why sports may be downstream from politics just ahead. Well, there's nothing better than at the end of a long day, sitting back in your favorite chair with your favorite glass of whiskey. And if it turns out that with every glass, you're going to help support a great American cause, doesn't it make it taste that much better? Well, you can chart your own course now with Flying Ace whiskeys from Craft Cope. They're inspired by generations of American aviators and proudly made right here in the United States. And Flying Ace, they not only make amazing whiskeys, they're also committed to supporting our brave troops and their families through their partnerships with Folds of Honor. And they're providing scholarships to families of American fallen or disabled. And these scholarships allow families to begin to chart their own new course after experiencing great sacrifice. Flying Ace whiskeys, they're American proud because they're American made. And they're American proud because they're helping to support our heroes and their families. So don't wait. Today's the day to try your own and see what the hype is all about. Go buy online at flyingacespirits.com. Use code America to get free shipping. It's flyingacespirits.com. Code America for free shipping. On Saturday, UFC champion Jon Jones retained his heavyweight belt at Madison Square Garden. In the post-match interview with Joe Rogan, Jones took the opportunity to give credit where credit was due.
I want to acknowledge Jesus Christ. I tell you what, man, I cannot take credit for a gift like this, man. I really owe it all to him. And I know that there's millions of people around the world watching right now. And I just want to let you guys know that Jesus loves you so much. That's all I'll say about that.
Here to break it all down is BlazeTV contributor for Fearless, Steve Kim. So, Steve, when you see the storied history that Jones has had, what does his vocal move towards Christianity mean here?
That's an interesting question. Obviously, he's had a checkered past. I think everyone can just kind of Google some of his missteps, but maybe this is part of his road to redemption and retribution. But I think there's a larger picture at play here that athletes in general are now, for lack of a better term, coming out of the closet. And that's what I would call it across the board. It used to be years ago that when you use that term, it was about your sexual orientation and not being ashamed of having certain beliefs. Well, when it comes to not only religion, there's also culture and politics involved, where now athletes seem to be liberated in a lot of respects post November 5th about coming out of their closet with their own beliefs. As I was watching that unfold, because what he did afterwards, it reminded me of those great infomercials. But wait, there's more. And then when he did what he did afterwards, I just felt like, wow, he just hit the grand slam here.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. I am curious. I want to read somewhere his road to redemption because I sort of lost track, of him just knowing he was in trouble for so long. So if he has a conversion story, I'm sure there'd be millions of people who'd be interested to hear it. But right after that, this was remarkable. Everyone was talking about this as soon as it happened, because not only does he thank Trump, right? He does the dance like everyone else, but he does it in a very prominent way after winning, in front of millions of people. And then he gives him the belt. The gladiator in their arena, right? As many people said, whether they praised it or whether they hated it, this looked like a gladiator in the arena going to the emperor. But it was this remarkable cultural moment. And is this something you were expecting? It feels like this is part of a larger shift, and it really is pronounced at this point. But an objection would be like, well, this is MMA and it's always leaned for Trump, so whatever, it's not really as big as you guys are making it out to be.
Yeah, in terms of him doing the dance, that dance craze is the biggest since probably the Macarena. Here's the thing that's interesting about that. In terms of Donald Trump and his association with the UFC, people have to remember years ago when I was a kid growing up, I knew him as two things, guys. It was not a future president. He was the owner of the New Jersey Generals, the USFL football team. That league was ill-fated. And then he was a boxing promoter, in essence. The Trump properties hosted a lot of big fights in Atlantic City. So he's always been a sportsman to me. And beyond his participation in UFC events is really his close friendship with Dana White, who is the leader of that organization. And by the way, Dana was actually on stage when Trump was announced as our newest president back about 2 weeks ago. So none of this is a surprise. Donald's been up there many, many times. He always gets that position right in front of the octagon. Guys, as I'm watching this play out, other fighters throughout the night on the undercard were making their way to President Trump and paying their respects. They were, and they were having some small conversations. They would point at him. But when Jon Jones, who is one of the most famous and greatest ever in the UFC, busted out the dance moves, I said, wow, that moment is going to go viral. Because just think about it, guys. I think it was even just 2-3 years ago that if any athlete or celebrity retweeted anything that was, I would say, innocuous, that not only did it not have to be in support of Trump, if it didn't rip him enough or with enough ferocity, you were immediately branded MAGA. And it was certainly used as a pejorative. Now it's amazing that MAGA is something that people are very proud to espouse and to exhibit. And I think it's great to see.
Well, Steve, it was like Avengers Assemble. It wasn't just Trump there. He said, everybody, get on the plane. We're all going. It was Vivek. It was Tulsi, RFK Jr. You throw in Kid Rock for good measure, right? But it's almost a weird feeling, Steve, because now, maybe for the first time in my life, like the GOP are the cool kids. Do we need to be concerned about being the cool kids? We don't know how to handle this.
No, we need to embrace it. Look, Donald Trump's had the greatest personality arc in about a month. He went from Adolf Hitler to Julius Caesar. and then this is the thing that bothers me about the corporate legacy media. There's people complaining about this whole thing about his roster coming in and how bad it is, the imagery. And I'm thinking to myself, hey, buddy, did we forget the Squad? Remember the infamous Squad? What a great impact they made on American society, huh? And get this, these guys are actually going to help America. I thought it was a great moment when Donald and his crew walk in. It's very theatrical. It's very produced. And when that audience at Madison Square Garden busted out the USA chant, I mean, just think about how far we've come just in the realm of sports. It wasn't that long ago that not only were we not singing the national anthem, they were bringing in other songs, which fine, you can have your opinions on that. But the participants and maybe some of the people in the audience, they weren't standing up. They were actually protesting it. And to now go to this, no one's even thinking about doing that anymore. I don't think the cultural norms have shifted to a 180 where to a point that if you do not show the respect that is really deemed worthy, you're going to come into the crosshairs of the American public. So no, we should not be concerned that we are the cool kids now. But here's what I believe Donald Trump now has an edict from the American public. Be a good president for all the people. Be the leader that we want you to be, and to keep pushing this pro-agenda, America first, I would say rationale, because we lost all rational thought for about 3 years here. So I'm not afraid. I'm actually very excited because, to be very honest with you, I didn't know if we'd ever get back to this point.
No, and Charles Barkley got in on the action. He congratulated Trump. He said he won fair and square, but he also went after the Democratic Party for, quote, not having a plan, and dismissed any other excuses for Harris's loss. Listen.
We lost because we had no game plan. We still haven't solved the immigration problem, have no viable answers, never addressed inflation, bringing all these stupid stars out to rally the vote. What was that? Hey, I love Beyonce. What bringing her out? That ain't gonna make me vote a certain way. Cardi B, I like Cardi B. That ain't gonna make me vote a certain type of way. You guys lost because y'all stupid.
Steve, leave it to Charles Barkley for just laying it out there.
So he thought the Democratic game plan was terrible. Okay, so, it's interesting. He brought up Cardi B. I hadn't actually really seen the whole speech till about last night, just doing some research. Guys, I'm going to date myself here, but that looked like a really bad In Living Color skit. Yeah, so you do. All right, we're about the same age then. So, I mean, it really, this whole campaign seemed like a really bad skit. And the bottom line is very simple in my view. The conservative party, the Republicans, I believe, had a pro-America agenda. the last 4 years, the Democratic Party had an anti-American ethos to it, from the immigration to other issues such as fracking, in terms of the abortion issue. And it was celebrity elite class versus the common man against a party, right, that had lost common sense. So again, does a guy like me who's not really that much wrapped up in the politics really care about the micro issues? Not really, but I do understand which party and which candidate is more pro-America. And I thought the choice was clear. I mean, guys, not to be a cynic, I'm actually still alarmed that many people voted for Kamala Harris. I still think there's a lot of work to be done culturally. No, seriously, right across the board. Even though Donald Trump won the general vote, there's still like what 48-49% that went with her. That just boggles my mind.
Yeah, Steve, I hear you on that. I think there's two ways to look at it. One is, and I still think this is true, volatility will just increase because both sides are gonna, one side is slapped down for now, but they're gonna rise back again. And we really are going to have to go back and forth. People aren't going to just relinquish power easily in the government, et cetera. The positive side, though, right now, and I think what people are feeling is that something broke, right? Sometimes you reach a tipping point and all of a sudden something breaks wide open. And there's one way of looking at that would be to look at the young vote, particularly for young men. And I think this is interesting when you think about the sports audience. So Harris and Trump are battling over Gen Z, right? And Kamala's like Brat and Beyonce and whatever, big kind of A-listers. But Gen Z men ultimately go to Trump 49 to 47%, which is, again, something we're supposed to think, oh, well, that will never happen. You're losing the young. But when it comes to young men, we're not, right? And those are also the people who are often watching sports.
Yeah, so you're telling me Harry Sisson really wasn't this great influencer for the Democratic Party? Wow, I'm stunned. Look, here's I think one of the things that I've talked about a lot with Jason Whitlock. I really think that what happened on November 5th and leading into it is a rebuke of the corporate legacy media and the era of the celebrity endorser or the influencer, that maybe it would have worked 10, 15 years ago. But I know this, people who live in the middle class suburb or working class area or a flyover state, I'm not so sure they really are going to listen to Oprah or a Beyonce about their first world problems. Their problems are not my problems. When they're broke, it's a little bit different than when I am. And so all of this, I thought, was a confluence of events and circumstances where the American people coalesce. I mean, think about this. This is one thing that does encourage me. If you look at across the wide-ranging spectrum of every demographic in America, except for one, and we know which one, there seems to be, I don't want to say a red wave, but there is momentum. Donald Trump, even in the states that he lost, made up ground. And I live in California. It's turning more red. And I never thought I would say that if you look at the counties and the local municipalities, if you look at the map, about 2-3 years ago, it was very blue. Now it's much more red. So there is progress being made culturally in this great country of ours.
That's right. Give me Steve Kim as an influencer any day. Thanks so much for joining us here today. When we come back, cryptocurrencies could see a boost if the SEC chair resigns. We'll have the details just ahead. Don't look now, but Thanksgiving is right around the corner. What's better, turkey or ham? Well, the real answer is free food. A free 10-pound spiral cut ham from Good Ranchers is worth $110. But this is their Thanksgiving special, so you can choose from any of their boxes of 100% American meat or wild-caught seafood, and they'll add the ham for free by shopping at Good Ranchers. You're supporting local farms and ranches, and you can skip the chaos of the grocery store and all the imported meat that they have and celebrate what matters most to you, which is time with the ones that you love. So order by November 19th. Get on that now at goodranchers.com. Subscribe to any of their boxes and use my code Jill to claim your free ham. But don't wait, because supplies are limited. So if you're thankful for the farmers and ranchers of this country, go to goodranchers.com and support them with every order. Goodranchers.com. American meat delivered. We could soon see a shakeup in the financial world as Gary Gensler, he's the Securities and Exchange Commissioner. Now, he's expected to resign before his term ends. And Gensler, he recently gave a speech that sounded a lot like a farewell. He gave a review of his accomplishments and said it has been an honor to serve with the agency. You may remember back in July at the Bitcoin conference, Trump hinted that he would fire Gensler if he got elected. It was the biggest applause line of the night.
On day one, I will fire Gary Gensler and appoint a new SEC chairman. I didn't know he was that unpopular. Well, I didn't know he was that unpopular. Let me say it again. On day one, I will fire Gary Gensler. Whoa.
He's a showman, that's for sure. Here to discuss is Marty Bent. He's the managing partner of 1031 VC. So, Marty, what could Gensler's resignation possibly mean for the SEC?
I don't know for sure. I know this is Gary Gensler's "you can't fire me, I quit" moment, which is funny to see. He's sort of front running the incoming administration. I believe Jay Clayton is being floated as an individual who could take over the SEC. That would be great for us. I think we discussed this last time I was on the show, Operation Choke Point 2.0, which Gary Gensler and the SEC had a hand in during this Biden administration, has been completely deleterious to the industry. It's thrown a lot of cold water on the industry. So I think at the very least, getting somebody in who is going to embrace Bitcoin, which the Trump administration seems dead set on doing, is just going to allow the industry some breathing room to really pull up their sleeves and get some work done and actually be able to build without worrying that the SEC is going to unilaterally throw cold water on operations and business as usual.
Can you talk about what that would look like? I mean, I think for a lot of people, they need to understand just how much cold water, as you say, has been thrown on the industry by the SEC. And so, you know, looking forward, what are the kinds of things that would change for everybody?
Well, for the last 4 years, I mean, broader crypto has been really mad at Gary Gensler and the SEC because they've really just been, they haven't been giving clarity to the industry. They've been basically ruling by going after people who are unaware of what the rules are because the SEC hasn't made those clear. And you find out after the fact, oh, this may be illegal. And the industry has been asking for regulatory clarity for the better part of a decade now. And Gary Gensler and his SEC refused to give that to the industry. And so I think one low-hanging fruit that an incoming SEC chair could do is just provide regulatory clarity. What can the industry do? What can we not do? What are these assets classified as, and what type of activities can individuals and businesses partake in?
Well, I mean, you mentioned that there, just regulatory clarity. If you could wave a magic wand and just say, this is what I would love to see beyond just that clarity, what would those extra things be?
I think for Bitcoin particularly, getting rid of the capital gains tax would be incredible. That's one thing that we notice is that people tend to hold Bitcoin and not spend it throughout their day-to-day lives because they're worried about that capital gains tax. And if you think about Bitcoin as this emerging monetary good and the properties that it enables in terms of the ways in which you can conduct commerce from the payments perspective, eliminating the capital gains tax would do incredible things to stoke incredible innovation throughout the Bitcoin industry in the United States. So I think that is one thing I'm looking for. I don't think the SEC would be able to grant that, but I think if you eliminate the capital gains tax and allow people to build on Bitcoin, particularly the payments use case, we could see an incredible amount of intellectual firepower come into the United States to build out this industry.
Marty, talk a little bit more about what you've heard about his replacement, possible replacement, and what you name any names you'd like to see working at the SEC.
Jay Clayton, number one, he's the name that I've heard floated, and I think actually he's being thought for another position. But somebody like Jay Clayton, who really understands Bitcoin, the potential it provides, and somebody is going to be more hands-off, laissez-faire. This is a budding industry. Yes, we're 16 years in, but I think we're just getting to the critical tipping point where people are really understanding what Bitcoin is, the potential it provides individuals, companies, states, nation states even. And if we're able to get some regulatory clarity where the SEC or whoever it may be simply says, we're embracing Bitcoin, we want people to build businesses and use it in their everyday lives, and we're going to let you go out and try to innovate and build these businesses and bring productivity and positive economic value to the American economy, as long as you're not doing anything illegal, go for it. That's what I would like to see, just letting this industry flourish and really push the limits of what can be done, because this is an innovative technology in two ways. One, it brings a truly scarce asset to the world for the first time ever. And then what really gets slept on, people focus on 21 million Bitcoin number go up, but the network that those Bitcoin ride on really opens up some innovation in terms of the type of tech that we can build that can really protect consumers at the end of the day, particularly when it comes to how you engage with third parties and the type of data that you need to give up.
Well, Trump is building out his administration right now, and he has a Secretary of Energy in Chris Wright. He said, as Secretary of Energy, Chris will be a key leader driving innovation, cutting red tape, and ushering in a new golden age of American prosperity and global peace. So what can you tell us about Chris Wright?
I am extremely happy to see this pick. I had Chris on my podcast, it must have been 3 or 4 years ago, and I think Chris is an individual, understands how important the energy sector is to the U.S. economy, particularly oil and gas. And not only that, he's built a company that has really shown that you can extract oil and gas from the ground and do it efficiently and do it, quote unquote, cleanly, while enabling America to expand its energy infrastructure. And so I think Chris Wright, having had a few conversations with him throughout the year, is the perfect candidate for this position. That's what you want to see in these positions, that people have actually operated and done things, particularly in the energy sector. And Chris is an outstanding individual for this particular position. I'm very bullish on the future of American energy with Chris in this particular position.
Well, Marty, we are very excited just to have you back on the show. Every time we get to talk about Bitcoin on here, it always brings a smile to my face. So thanks so much for making some time.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Matthew.
And Matthew, when he's just going over, Chris Wright in particular, but he's like, oh man, it's great to see somebody who's actually done the thing. They've ran a business. Mm-hmm. They know how to do this. It's a little insane, but that is one of the lines that everybody's excited about, is people that are going to be in DC have run businesses before this time around.
Yeah, I mean, I think you see fresh faces, right? And that's always good. And people who aren't going up the usual ladders of quote unquote expertise, the usual expert tracks, that's what we want to see. And when you have someone like Marty who's excited about that, you can take that to the bank, right? He's not joking around.
Absolutely. And something else we can get excited about, or if you want to go figure out what to go see in the theater this weekend, we will give you the must-watch list just ahead. Align is launching a brand new monthly movie guide for all the cinephiles out there. It's authored by editor and filmmaker Vince Salerno. And Vince is here now, along with actor and producer Matthew Marsden. But Vince, let's start with you, because I want to know what all these good movies are that I need to keep an eye out for that are going to be here over the holiday weekends.
Well, Red One just came out, which is not a great movie according to the audience. It was a $250 million budget movie. It made $84 million opening weekend, which is a flop. So we can forget about that. But coming out this coming month is going to be Gladiator 2, which everyone seems to be excited for. First one was a big hit. After that, I believe is going to be Wicked Part 1 for all the girls out there. I guess everyone into musicals is into that one. And then we got Bonhoeffer, and after that, Moana 2.
So can we talk about Gladiator 2 just
we absolutely can.
Because
Gladiator 1's my all-time favorite movie.
Yeah, so when Gladiator came out, right? I remember we watched it. I didn't expect much, and I just was shocked and blown away And then it was like, well, it was in the theaters. We would just go watch it. Like, what do you feel like doing? Oh, let's go see Gladiator again, right? And so I've been thinking bad thoughts about this second one for a long time. But some anonymous account, like this is a random account. I don't even know much about Akira the Don, but this random account said this, and now I have my hopes up, and I want you guys to talk me off the ledge. This guy goes, I saw Gladiator 2 expecting it to be dumb, but thinking, F it, Ridley Scott, big screen, looks amazing, can't take that for granted. Anyway, I was flabbergasted. It's entirely mental and metal. I was shocked and awed and amazed. It's explicitly a perfectly timed mirror of this cultural moment. The subtext is savage and exactly correct, right from the first moment up to the bat crap and glorious finale. It's insanely based. And I'm like, oh, okay. Do you have to do this to me? Because now I kind of feel like maybe it's kind of interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I'm a little bit biased because when people were going to watch Gladiator, I was actually working with Ridley on Black Hawk Down.
Yes.
So, I mean, I loved the first movie. You know, I'm a big fan of Ridley's. You know, so it's kind of difficult for me to comment on it. But I haven't heard anything. It's one of those movies where they've really tried to keep the script under wraps, which is normally a good thing. It used to be like that in Hollywood. You know, they used to want it to keep the mystery from the audience, which is great. I actually was over in Malta earlier on this year, and I went on the sets, and the sets are absolutely spectacular, which were back to the original was shot in Malta. So, and Denzel's involved, and you know, you be very hard pushed to find a bad Denzel Washington movie. So it's encouraging. I mean, I can understand in today's environment how people are so negative about Hollywood because Hollywood's dying. I don't know if you've noticed that, but I do have high hopes for this film.
All right, Vince, but in a recent interview, we had Denzel Washington out there talking about this movie, and he was saying that the final version of the movie, he's a little disappointed because his same-sex kiss got deleted. He said they were a little bit chicken from this. Now, it wasn't like, you know, like two guys like love each other. He said it was a kiss of death. And, you know, there was ultimately one of them died from this. But if we're looking for the based movie that Matthew is saying here, that Anon accounts that I guess we're going to trust them now. Are you surprised that this happened and then it got cut?
I mean, I wonder if it was like this little moment of diversity that they tried to push in there. And then, you know, now that, you know, with Trump winning, I mean, who knows how that's affecting Hollywood right now. But it's possible that someone came in there and was like, no, we don't need to do that anymore. Let's nick that.
I want to know more about what exactly was going on there, because I don't think Denzel is, a big fat liberal. So,
no.
So I would have to know more.
Yeah, I mean, it puzzles me a little bit because it's not the kind of thing that he would normally come out and say, I have to say. I mean, he's a big supporter of the military. You know, he's for the most part, his movies are very masculine. So it's a bit weird.
My note says he kills this character shortly thereafterwards. So maybe that's why. That's why.
Yeah.
Now, my biggest question, and this is what we always say, is, right, like Hollywood needs money from the normies, right? They need our money, right? But yet they would continue to make woke film after woke film. To your point, Vince, is this going to be one of those ways where Hollywood's like, oh, maybe we will actually just start making movies that will produce large box office hits?
Well, you've already seen that with Disney. Like Inside Out 2 came out, and it's the highest grossing animated movie of all time. And I've heard stories that movie had some gay stuff in there and that was yanked, and, you know, look what happened. I have a similar theory with Moana 2 because there's an interesting story in the article about Moana 2, how that was an 8-episode Disney Plus series. Disney had a film coming out this year that was supposed to be woke. They yanked it from release because after several other flops from woke movies, they decided we need a hit. Moana is a big hit on Disney Plus. People love it, so why not go with Moana 2? So they took those 8 episodes, restructured them into a Disney, not Disney Plus series, a Disney movie. And now it's coming out this year. It's already has huge pre-ticket sales. And so it could be another big hit. So I think Disney is already learning this lesson. which is good because Disney is obviously the biggest studio that's guilty of the wokeness that's been plaguing Hollywood.
All right, so we have the Aligned Movie Guide. Tell everybody about it and what you guys hope to accomplish there.
So the goal for the Aligned Movie Guide is to help audiences rediscover the power they have over Hollywood. As you said, at the end of the day, Hollywood just wants your money. They can criticize us, they can call us sexist, racist for not going to see the movies, but at the end of the day, they just want your money. So they will do whatever it takes to get your money. So I think you're going to see more great movies come out, hopefully. Whether they do or not, we'll be covering them on the Aligned Guide. We'll let you guys know what's coming out. And we don't want to give any opinions just because we want the audience to decide for themselves what they think is worth their money.
What a novel concept. Matthew?
Right?
Yes, but we will be taking opinions from Matthew Marsden.
That's right. That's right.
Of course.
That's how it should be. Now, Marsden, I want you to give me thumbs up, thumbs down. Gladiator 2, is it going to be good or not? Thumbs?
I don't know. I don't. Is it going to be well directed? Yes.
Listen, Joaquin Phoenix, we need you to make a decision here.
Okay,
There you go.
Give it
thumbs
a thumbs up. I'm going to
Thumbs
give it
up.
a thumbs up.
There it is. Thank you.
Hope. What about Moana? Do you think Moana 2 is going to be good or no?
I think it's going to be.
Think they'll get rid of stuff?
Here's the problem, Matt, is that we have such low expectations these days. Like, is it going to be great? No.
Yeah.
Is it going to be non-woke?
Maybe.
Yes. It
Yeah.
probably is going to be non-woke, but that's where we are. But I actually think we need to decentralize entertainment and we need to do more movies outside of Hollywood that are great. That's the only real way that we're going to get back to making these great movies again.
Well, I can tell you because I've already seen Bonhoeffer. It's made from Angel Studios. It's fantastic. So I can fully give that one a thumbs up, and it comes out on November 22nd. Thanks so much for joining us, guys.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
When we come back, we'll have some final thoughts and wrap the show next. Well, here on Blaze News tonight, we have high hopes all around. We keep talking about Trump's picks that he's going to be putting in his cabinet. And now, I guess, Matthew, are we actually going to have high hopes for Gladiator 2? Because until a few minutes ago, I wasn't going to have high hopes for this. But now you might have convinced me.
I mean, look, I was just reliably informed a few minutes ago that Akira the Don, this guy is actually a musician. He's been on Normal World a few times. He actually has an album that's based on Marcus Aurelius's timeless masterpieces. And he's got some, I think, industrial rock going off on it. So, I mean, at least like there are some people out there, some people say that it's not the original Gladiator, but it's wild and crazy and interesting. And all right, I need some kind of reason to go to a movie. I go to a movie like twice a year now, like a grumpy old man.
Yeah, I think that's all we need is just one little shred of hope. And
Yes.
you know what?
Yes.
It'll be fine. I'll go watch it. But something else from today's show is Donald Trump, the GOP, and the Cool Kids Club, right? Like this is something unknown for us, right? If we're going to be fitting in, we have to go watch Gladiator 2. We have to know what the kids are saying. We have to know the cultural things that are happening now if we're going to be in the Cool Kids Club.
Well, this is hard for me because
we're not.
Because
what do we do? How do we act?
because I've just never I feel like, well, yeah, but I am one of the cool kids. I always have been. Since I'd say 2008 and just dropping all of politics, especially the Republicans as they were. And then the last, we've been the rebels for a long time in a way.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean. I mean, I don't mean to be facetious about it, but I think now it's sort of like the recognition is, oh yeah, these are actually the people with skin in the game. These are actually the people doing the things, and it's the recognition is there, and that's great. And I think that's real because it is real.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the difference between, respecting something that's completely fake, that, it's fetch, the thing that shouldn't happen, that's not going to happen, that they make happen all the time. It's so hollow, right? And this is just like looking at reality and going, actually, these are the people doing the thing. And so I think it is real. I think there's reason to be scared when that's the case because you should always be countercultural. And if you mean by cool not being countercultural, right, and just, then you're not cool.
Well, we're we're rebels with a cause now at this point in time. And everybody this whole weekend, one of the most popular photos was on Trump's plane, and him and Elon and Don Jr. and then RFK Jr. and then, little Mike Johnson just jumping in the background, happy to be in the photo with all of their McDonald's.
I'm so glad you noticed,
and RFK Jr. just is like, I'm here because this is what they're doing right now. I don't want to be eating the McDonald's. But to me, that is going to be one of the lasting images that I will think of, like, long beyond this Trump administration. No matter what happens, I will think back to this photo.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I have to say, I don't want to pick on him, but Mike Johnson in a couple of those shots taking a selfie in the plane does look like the odd man out. Like, there it is. Like,
that
you aren't used to being one of the cool kids, are you?
That's what that's the entire GOP was. Mike Johnson.
So that I get totally.
That's what we were.
That's looking at it like
now we're Elon sitting next to
like,
Trump.
Hey,
we
guys,
are the actual
what are you guys,
cool kids.
What are you guys doing? And everyone else is sort of sitting there. Maybe one way to put it is, I'll put it this way: it is strange to all of a sudden think, could we be the mainstream media now? But then again, I'm okay with that too. I want to get to that point where
I'm the captain now.
Look at me. We're not. We have to earn that. We have to earn that. But I'm okay with having that position as well. And I think that's a great way to put it. That in the past, for good reason. I mean, look at him. Johnson is like that is the GOP sort of like hopping around in the background. But we do. There's a lot of work to do. Right. The real war starts now. And keeping the party accountable, the realigned party accountable, and building it will be, the work of the next 4 years.
Well, I loved the way that we started with the 60 Minutes clip, where they were going through all of the picks and basically saying, "Oh no, this is going to be terrible," right? Like this is the vibe that you get from the legacy media. That you get Mika and Joe trekking down to Mar-a-Lago. They're like, "We haven't seen him in 7 years."
There's hours of Mika, both of them saying, basic, literally Hitler. Yeah. And then going like, no, now you're going to make
you're going to go kiss the ring.
You're going to kiss the ring like everybody else. And it just, it proves the whole deal. I think, again, you see this kind of explosive energy that can't be stopped. That's just, blowing up all over the place. And it is cutting edge. It's leading right now.
And Charles Barkley yelling at the Democrats saying, "You don't have a plan."
So there's different things here, right? 60 Minutes is kind of like, am I watching, like, where did you dig up these old fossils?
Yes.
Just going through in this snide, condescending way. It's like, how many of the 5 people who watch you even believe what you're saying about these candidates? Barkley, on the other hand, is still trying to be relevant, right? So he's sort of navigating. He's like, I think the Democrats are stupid and I'm an independent. So I look a little bit like, it's great he's saying that, but it's also like, you haven't stuck your neck out. That's why you're not cool now. There's no skin in the game with you. He's navigating.
Listen, inside the NBA, it's going to stick around for a little while. ESPN's probably going to ruin it because that's what they do. But Charles Barkley, he doesn't have a plan.
That's true.
He needs one. We have a plan, though, here on Blaze News Tonight. Be sure to subscribe to it on your favorite podcast platform, and we'll see you back here tomorrow night.